Welcome to Learn English Stories, where you learn English through stories. Today we have a captivating story that's not only education but also unfolds a significant in history. Before we dive into the narrative, remember, clear and simple sentences will guide our journey, making learning both enjoyable and effective. If you find the story helpful, please press the like button to reward us. It motivates us to bring more stories your way. Also, don't hesitate to write a comment sharing your thoughts or any questions you might have. Engaging with the story actively is a great way to enhance your learning experience. Now let's begin our story. The 11th President of the United States was James K. Polk. He served from 1845 to 1849 and is best known for overseeing the expansion of the United States to the Pacific Ocean through the annexation of Texas, the Oregon Trail settlement, and the Mexican-American War. Polk's presidency was marked by significant territorial gains but also by controversy over slavery and war. Story of James K. Polk, the 11th President of the United States. Chapter 1. Early Life and Political Beginnings. Section 1.1. Birth and Childhood. James Knox Polk was born on November 2, 1795, in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, raised in a family that valued education and hard work. Polk was often described as determined and hard-working from a young age. His father, Samuel Polk, was a successful planter, and his mother, Jane Knox, was the daughter of a prominent local family. The young Polk was educated at home by private tutors and later attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he graduated with honors in 1818. Section 1.2. Early Political Career. After completing his education, Polk studied law and passed the bar in 1820. He began his political career in Tennessee, where he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives in 1825. As a member of the Democratic-Republican Party, which later became the Democratic Party, Polk quickly gained a reputation as an able and committed politician. During his time in Congress, he supported policies that favored westward expansion and economic growth. Section 1.3. The Speaker of the House. In 1835, Polk was elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives, a position he held for 4 years. His tenure as Speaker was marked by a firm yet fair leadership style, and he worked hard to pass legislation that aligned with his political beliefs. Polk's influence during this period earned him recognition and respect, and he became a key player in the national political scene. Were Section 1.4. The Governor of Tennessee. After his time as Speaker, Polk sought higher office and was elected Governor of Tennessee in 1839. His governorship, however, was less successful, and he lost his bid for re-election in 1841. Despite this setback, Polk remained determined to pursue his political ambitions and began planning for his next move. Chapter 2. The Path to the Presidency. Dreyer, Section 2.1. The 1844 Election Campaign. Polk's journey to the presidency began in 1844 when the Democratic Party was looking for a candidate who could unify the nation's growing factions. Despite not being a prominent national figure at the time, Polk's reputation for honesty, determination, and commitment to party values made him a strong contender. His platform was focused on expansionism, particularly the annexation of the Texas, which had been a topic of national debate for years. He also called for the acquisition of Oregon and a reduction of tariffs. His strong stance on these issues earned him support from Southern Democrats and those advocating for westward expansion. Section 2.2. The Convention and Election. At the Democratic National Convention in 1844, Polk secured the nomination after a contentious race. His main opponent was former President Martin Van Buren, but Polk's commitment to annexing Texas and expanding the nation's territory ultimately gave him the edge. In the election against Henry Clay, the Whig candidate, Polk won narrowly, with 170 electoral votes to Clay's 105 fires. Section 2.3. The Inauguration. Polk's inauguration on March 4, 1845, marked the beginning of a presidency that would drastically change the United States. He promised to fulfill his campaign promises of territorial expansion and reduction of tariffs. Polk's determination to achieve these goals made him a highly ambitious and proactive president. Section 2.4. A Divisive Presidency. While Polk's rise to power was celebrated by his supporters, it was controversial, particularly due to his strong stance on the issue of slavery. His views on expanding the United States were driven by the desire for economic growth, but the acquisition of new territories raised questions about the expansion of slavery into these areas. Chapter 3, The Annexation of Texas. Section 3.1, The Issue of Texas. The annexation of Texas had been a contentious issue in American politics for many years. After gaining independence from Mexico in 1836, Texas had hoped to join the Union, but the issue of whether Texas would be a slave state created a political dilemma. Many northern states opposed annexation, fearing it would tip the balance in favor of pro-slavery states. Section 3.2, Polk's Resolve. As president, Polk made the annexation of Texas one of his top priorities. In 1845, he successfully negotiated the annexation, and Texas officially joined the Union. This move was highly controversial and was viewed by many in the North as a way to expand slavery into new territories, or Section 3.3, Reaction to Annexation. The annexation of Texas was met with resistance from Mexico, which still considered Texas to be a part of its territory. This tension would eventually lead to war between the United States and Mexico. Polk's decision to annex Texas, while popular in the South, further divided the nation. Section 3.4, The Beginning of the Mexican-American War. The annexation of Texas escalated tensions between the United States and Mexico. In 1846, a border dispute between Texas and Mexico led to the outbreak of the Mexican-American War. Polk's aggressive foreign policy and determination to expand the United States into Mexico's northern territories set the stage for one of the most significant conflicts in American history. Chapter 4, The Mexican-American War. Section 4.1, The War Begins. In 1846, Polk sent U.S. troops to the disputed border region between Texas and Mexico. The conflict quickly escalated, and after a skirmish between American and Mexican forces, Polk called for a declaration of war. The war was initially met with widespread support in the United States, especially among those in favor of westward expansion, or Section 4.2, Key Battles and American Victories. Under Polk's leadership, the United States won a series of decisive battles during the war, including the capture of Mexico City. In 1847, American forces, led by generals like Zachary Taylor and Winfield Scott, advanced through Mexican territory and achieved significant military successes. Section 4.3, The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. The war ended in 1848 with the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. This treaty ceded vast territories, including modern-day California, Nevada, Utah, and parts of Arizona and New Mexico to the United States. In return, the U.S. paid $15 million to Mexico and agreed to protect the rights of Mexican citizens living in the newly acquired territories. Section 4.4, The Legacy of the War. The Mexican-American War had far-reaching consequences. It significantly expanded the United States territory, but it also deepened divisions between the North and South over the issue of slavery. The new territories, acquired from Mexico, would later become a focal point for debates over the expansion of slavery, eventually contributing to the tensions that led to the Civil War. Chapter 6, The California Gold Rush and Economic Growth. Section 6.1, The Discovery of Gold in California. In 1848, just months after the signing of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, a significant event changed the course of history. Gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill in California. This discovery sparked one of the largest and most transformative migrations in U.S. history, the California Gold Rush. Tens of thousands of people, known as 49ers, flocked to California in search of riches. The gold rush created an economic boom, attracting settlers from all over the world, including Americans, Mexicans, Chinese, and Europeans. Section 6.2, Polk's Economic Vision. Polk recognized that the expansion of territory would lead to a need for economic integration and stability. Under his leadership, the country experienced a period of rapid economic growth. Polk was a firm believer in free trade and focused on reducing tariffs, which laid the groundwork for a more unified national economy. His administration also made strides in improving the country's banking system and fostering the development of infrastructure, including railroads. Section 6.3, The California Question. The newfound wealth from the gold rush led to a population explosion in California, which created questions about the region's political status. As settlers poured into California, the question arose as to whether California would enter the Union as a freer slave state. Polk, although a staunch advocate of territorial expansion, was now faced with the increasingly tense issue of slavery and its future in the new territories. Use Section 6.4, Economic Challenges and the Mexican Cession. While the gold rush fueled economic growth, the economic challenges of integrating California into the Union remained. The Mexican Cession, including California, was rich in natural resources. But this new territory also brought with it political instability. The competing interests of slave and free states would lead to the formation of the Compromise of 1850 GLAW, which attempted to address the issue of slavery in the territories. Polk's presidency set the stage for these debates, although he would not live to see their resolution. Chapter 7. The Question of Slavery and the Wilmot Proviso. Psych 3, Section 7.1, The Expansion of Slavery. Polk's presidency was also deeply intertwined with the issue of slavery. As the United States expanded westward, the question arose of whether slavery would be allowed to spread into the newly acquired territories from Mexico. Southern politicians, many of whom were slave owners, advocated for the extension of slavery into these areas, while Northern abolitionists and free soil advocates vehemently opposed it. Section 7.2, the Wilmot Proviso. In 1846, David Wilmot, a Democratic congressman from Pennsylvania, introduced the Wilmot Proviso, which proposed that slavery should be banned in any territory acquired from Mexico. This proposal was highly controversial, dividing Congress along regional lines. Polk himself was not a supporter of the proviso, as he was deeply tied to Southern interests and the pro-slavery cause. However, the Wilmot Proviso highlighted the deepening sectional divide in the United States. Section 7.3, the rising tensions over slavery. The debate over the expansion of slavery into the new territories grew more intense as the years passed. Polk's inability to address the issue in a way that could satisfy both the North and the South contributed to the tensions that would eventually lead to the Civil War. The debates surrounding slavery in California and other territories were emblematic of the larger national conflict over the institution of slavery, one that would continue to shape the nation's political landscape. Reignited Section 7.4, Polk's compromise efforts. Throughout his presidency, Polk attempted to balance the competing interests of the North and South. He advocated for the Missouri Compromise, which had previously drawn a line between free and slave states, to be extended to new territories. However, his efforts ultimately failed, and the issue of slavery in the territories became one of the central conflicts in American politics. Polk's inability to resolve the issue peacefully laid the groundwork for future political crises. Chapter 8. The End of Polk's Presidency. Burrier Section 8.1, Polk's Health and Fatigue. Polk's presidency was marked by his tireless work ethic. He was deeply committed to fulfilling his campaign promises and managing the expansion of the United States. However, the demands of office, combined with the stress of dealing with war and territorial issues, took a toll on his health. Polk was known to suffer from poor health throughout his presidency, including bouts of chronic illness, which worsened as his term came to a close. Section 8.2, the election of 1848. In 1848, Polk announced that he would not seek re-election. Having accomplished much of what he set out to do, he felt that the nation needed fresh leadership to handle the ongoing challenges. The Whig Party nominated Zachary Taylor, a hero of the Mexican-American War, while the Democrats nominated Lewis Cass. Polk's decision not to run allowed the Whigs to regain the presidency with Taylor's victory. Despite this, Polk's legacy was firmly established, and he left office with a record of success in expanding the nation's territory. Section 8.3, the Legacy of Polk's Presidency. James K. Polk's presidency left a profound mark on the United States. He succeeded in achieving his goal of territorial expansion, securing vast swaths of land for the country. His policies of manifest destiny and expansionism reshaped the country's borders and its role on the world stage. However, his presidency also deepened the divisions between the North and South over slavery, setting the stage for the tensions that would ultimately lead to the Civil War. Story Series Section 8.4, Polk's Final Days. Polk's health continued to deteriorate after he left office, and he passed away on June 15, 1849, just 3 months after leaving the White House. His death at the age of 53 shocked the nation, and he was mourned by many who recognized the achievements of his presidency. Although his time in office was brief, Polk's impact on the nation's growth and future was undeniable. Chapter 9. Polk's lasting impact on American expansion. Bauforsi, Section 9.1, The Concept of Manifest Destiny. James K. Polk's presidency is often associated with the idea of manifest destiny, the belief that it was the United States' God-given right to expand across the North American continent. Under his leadership, the U.S. extended its territory from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, a goal that had been the driving force behind much of the nation's foreign and domestic policy during the 19th century. Polk's success in achieving this goal is considered one of the defining aspects of his presidency. Section 9.2, The Expansion of American Influence. Polk's vision for America extended beyond mere territorial acquisition. His policy set the stage for the United States to become a global power. By securing the Oregon Territory and expanding into the Southwest, Polk helped to solidify the U.S. as a continental power. His actions, particularly in the wake of the Mexican-American War, paved the way for the development of American industry and infrastructure, including railroads and communication systems. Section 9.3, The Debate over Slavery. While Polk succeeded in achieving his goal of territorial expansion, his presidency also brought to the forefront the question of slavery in the new territories. The issue of whether these new lands would be slave or free states would continue to shape American politics for decades, eventually culminating in the Civil War. Polk's legacy, therefore, is also tied to the deep divisions that emerged during his presidency and the national crisis that would follow. Section 9.4, Polk's influence on future presidents. Polk's presidency set a precedent for future presidents in terms of territorial expansion and the use of military force to achieve national goals. His leadership style, which emphasized decisiveness and an unwavering commitment to his goals, influenced subsequent presidents, including Abraham Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt. Polk's legacy continues to be studied and debated by historians, and his impact on American history remains significant to this day. Chapter 10. Reflections on the Polk Presidency. Section 10.1, Historical Perspective. James K. Polk's presidency is often viewed as one of the most successful in terms of achieving concrete goals, particularly the expansion of American territory. While his aggressive expansionist policies were controversial at the time, they are now seen as integral to the shaping of the United States as a continental power. His presidency also highlighted the complexities of American democracy, as it was marked by intense debates over slavery, the role of government, and the nation's responsibilities on the world stage. Breaker, Section 10.2, The Price of Expansion. While Polk's accomplishments are undeniable, the price of expansion was high. The Mexican-American War, which was fought in part to secure the lands that Polk coveted, resulted in the deaths of thousands of soldiers and civilians. Moreover, the newly acquired territories sparked intense debates over slavery, leading to political instability that would ultimately culminate in the Civil War. Section 10.3, Polk's Legacy in the Context of American History. James K. Polk's legacy must be understood within the broader context of American history. His achievements in expanding the nation's territory were vital to the country's future, but they also highlighted the moral and political contradictions that would shape American history for decades to come. The expansion of the nation's borders was inseparable from the issue of slavery, and Polk's presidency was a key moment in the nation.